Okay, we're going to look at Roderick Ford's poem Giuseppe, and it's a poem that kind of explores what it means to be hungry and starvation during the Second World War in Italy, and the desperation people have during wartime. And I think there was a rumor that they killed. I know that it is true that in some places that zoo animals were all slaughtered for meat in times of siege or in times of starvation. And this poem is playing on that, and the speaker is talking to his uncle and exploring how he feels about this. And it'd be totally normal to, even though sad, completely normal to kill all the animals in a zoo, perhaps, or an aquarium. But what's unusual about this poem is they killed the mermaid, the only mermaid ever captivated. And what that does is just changing that one detail transforms this from a poem that's kind of an account of desperation and life during wartime into something much creepier, much more of a violation, something far more haunting. My uncle Giuseppe told me that in Sicily in World War II, in the courtyard behind the aquarium where the bougainville grows so well, you see this detail is a diversion, is a digression, and that makes it feel like it's just a story. It's just going to be like any old story behind the aquarium. Well, what happened? Well, something really strange. The only captive mermaid in the world was butchered on the dry and dusty ground by a doctor, a fishmonger, and certain others. So we have the brutal action. Yeah? We have the setting, the aquarium, but the dry and dusty ground really contrasts with what you'd imagine a mermaid's world would be. And then you get almost, butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, kind of doctor, fishmonger, and certain others. But there's something about this ominous, creepy little phrase that makes me think it's a conspiracy. There's something worse. There's something very dark to what's happened. That is a very, very subtle thing. Well, which is it? And it's important, because if it's an it, it's okay. But if it's a she, then this is something cannibalistic, something forbidden, something disgusting. And that kind of hesitation, again, makes us think of speech, someone speaking. It had never learned to speak because she was simple, or so they'd said. There's a distrust here. I mean, they said she couldn't speak. That's what they said. She was simple, meaning she had basic understanding. But the priest who held one of her hands while her throat was cut said she was only a fish, and fish can't speak. Here we get the church. How corrupted the church is. Because held her hands while her throat was cut, and insisting they can't speak. I mean, they said it. Even though that's the case, Giuseppe lets us know she screamed like a woman in terrible fear. I mean, what's really interesting is the simile. There's the fight in this stanza between is this a human, is this not? And to use that simile really emphasizes that difficulty. Because look, if she screamed like a woman, the priest is telling you they're not. They can't speak and they're not human. What's the problem? And when they took a ripe golden roe, beautiful description, that's a fish egg. But it's huge because she's a human from her side. The doctor said, this was proof she was just a fish. Look, guys, it's proof. They need proof because they need it to be just a fish. Anyway, an egg is not a child, but refused when some was offered to him. So even though he's convinced these eggs are proof that she's just a fish, and that an egg isn't a child, even then refused, this image is is both gorgeous, luminous, beautiful, and horrific. You really see the contrast in this poem. Then they put her head on her hands. They put her head and her hands in a box for burial, for someone tried to take. Oh, so she's not human, but she still deserves a burial. And someone tried to take her wedding ring, but the other stopped him, and the ring stayed put. There's a hidden story here, something hidden. It seems there are limits. Okay, it's a fish, but you don't take away their wedding ring. We won't eat their hands or their head. Those are things that make them seem human. Those are the things that are buried and deserve attention. And you see that tension in the poem, again, between she or it. The rest they cooked and fed to the troops. So here's the necessity of war, of doing things, of cooking, of feeding. And they said a large fish had been found at the beach. If she wasn't a girl, why lie? Starvation forgives men many things. Now here we're in the real theme of the poem. My uncle, the aquarium keeper, said that. But he couldn't look me in the eye, for which I thank God. He's lying to himself, maybe. He can't be honest, and nor is the speaker of this poem. He wants to tell himself the lie too, that because you're hungry, because you need something, it can erase your guilt. But nonetheless, guilt is very present in this poem, as I do believe it is in Elam's Hireling. And to look at it really closely in different parts of the poem, you can really see and exploit how to interpret this poem and how to find that guilt, the tension between the she and the it, and the very regular details juxtaposed or made magical, fearful, and horrific by the fact that maybe this mermaid was indeed a woman.